Hello class, my name is Albert Alvarez and I am a student at the University of Texas at Brownsville, formerly University of Texas at Brownsville, now University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. And this is my final presentation on my project for the Practicum class of Educational Technology. Now, I wanted to start off by explaining a little bit about what the ultimate goal was for my major project in the class. It was something that I needed to be relevant to me because I feel as an educator for 21 years now that it is important for any kind of project, whether it be in my class or in other classes or classes that I'm taking, that there needs to be a real product that needs to come about a project so that we can do some real learning. And the ultimate goal of this particular project was relevancy. I needed for my project to be relevant not only to me but to the people that would be taking the course and get some real feedback. And the best way that I could possibly think of by doing that is something called data walls. And that's what I'm going to be discussing this afternoon, is data walls. Data walls to me is a motivational tool that we can use for our students or our learners to be able to see how they are growing and increasing from our standardized test scores here in the state of Texas called STAR. And STAR is going to be with us for a very long time, and we have to be able to take the performance that our students have in these standardized tests and see how they grow, how they decline, or how they stagnate. Now, that is the first part of this 5-part series in my final presentation. The second one is, what have I accomplished in the course project? And when we say, okay, I have this project to do in my class, what exactly comes about, or what is the accomplishment of this particular project? I felt that I needed to have a product that I could give to my fellow colleagues, my colleagues there at school, and even to the school district, to be able to learn about what data walls entails. What exactly do we need to do to be able to analyze the data coming from the state of Texas through STAR, and also in our own school, such as benchmarks? Can we look at the STAR standardized score from last year or previous years and look at what the kids are doing now with the benchmark exams, so we can look at their future, so we can see them improve, hopefully. And so when they get to this year's STAR score, they're going to be even more prepared, because they're going to have that tool to look upon in the classroom and see, yes, I have been increasing, I have been getting better, or I need to work harder, or I'm staying the same, I've got to do something better. And so that's why I thought that this great accomplishment of this particular project was going to be so good, is because I needed for them, we need for the kids to be able to see how they're increasing in their scores from last year's STARs through the benchmark exams. Now, how does the end product differ from my initial plan? That's a really good question, because when you start with a proposal and you believe that you have this end product in mind, exactly what do we want to do with this particular product? And at the very beginning of the project, you think, okay, this is what's going to end up, but sometimes that's not what we get. What I believed from my initial proposal was that I would create an instructional solution that allowed my colleagues to be able to create a poster that has the students' STAR scores. Then they can see their increase in through the benchmark scores in percent change, and the following 2 more benchmarks, a total of 3 benchmarks, they're going to be able to see if they're growing, if they're declining, or if they're staying the same or stagnating. And that's essentially what I thought the instructional solution was going to be. But as I started formulating these performance goals, I looked at the overarching goal, looked at the performance goals, and saw what the product needed to be. It got bigger, and bigger and bigger. And so what I needed for myself to be able to finish up the project is to what Adam brought about in his own final presentation, is that we needed to really understand what the project was about. And if we could do that, we could see the end product and it would come. And so I thought that it was just going to be this simple instructional solution, probably 3 parts, and it did have 3 lessons. And I would just end up with something that my fellow teachers would be able to create these posters. But as I went along further, it just got more of, it was a more in-depth end product that I wanted to have them create, because we needed to use these posters not only to show data and percent change, but we needed them to motivate our kids, motivate the students. And how do we go about doing that? Well, I started looking personally how I use motivation in my classes. And you know, we have reward systems. We have systems in place to okay, you know, you're gonna we have this pyramid. It's like, okay, you're doing good, you're doing good, you're doing good, and then you're gonna end up with this average. And we have grades that we can reward our kids with. But what about motivation? Well, motivation is essentially how we get these kids, our students, to be able to get better and get past that. And how do we do that? Well, we use relevance. How is it important to them in their lives? Number one, if you don't pass a STAR test, you're not going to be able to graduate from high school. So that's one way to motivate. Another one is because we want them to increase in their knowledge. We want them to increase in their ability to be able to use this information in a real world situation. So for my colleagues to be able to understand that idea, I'm sure that the scope of this particular project is going to go well beyond just basic motivation or using their diploma at the end of their high school career as motivation for these STAR tests. No. We need for the teachers to be able to use motivational tools like this in a real world setting. So perhaps maybe talking to my principal and using something besides the benchmarks and getting them to think outside the box, maybe a project-based learning module. That would be something for them to be able to use. So I think how the end product differs from the initial plan is my scope is much larger. Where can this particular module take my colleagues, my fellow teachers, and how do they become better motivators? You know, what are they going to be able to use to motivate the kids, not just with the STAR scores, but some other possible assessment that could help them become better students. Number 4, remember, there's a 5-part series, so number 4 is tell the class your rationale for the instructional design by using one of your lessons as an example. So why don't we go to the internet and we'll look at my module.
Hello, and welcome to the lesson called Let's Tango, Using Data Walls to Motivate, an instructional unit for using data walls to motivate students to achieve higher STAR scores. Click to begin the lesson.
Now, I wanted to be able to have an introduction, to the entire lesson, and then make it very interactive. If you notice the buttons here, I have on my main menu 4 different options on the left here, and instructions. Now, Dr. Pan asked me to be able to get to this resource right here in 2 or 3 different ways. That was one of the things that I corrected on my particular module, is because there was only one way to get to that resource, and it was through watching the lesson introduction. And at the end of the introduction, it actually talks to you about what the resource is about over here, and that's pretty much the only introduction that the resource has. So Dr. Pan asked me to correct that, and I did. And now thinking about it, my module has more of a flow to it. Here is the introduction. I won't play it all, but this is the lesson introduction.
The Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System, or T-TEST.
You'll notice also that I have included a video script on what is being said. And the reason why is because to be section 508 compliant,
the head principal of
we needed to be able to
Practicum
have
passed on this directive to the
the viewer or the learner, if they need section 508, to have a script of what is being said in the video. So I included that, and that was a really good note that Dr. Pan gave me on the feedback for my module. So let's skip the intro. And the intro is the only option that that actually gave us the opportunity. They gave us the opportunity to be able to go to or explain the resource, the history of the performance-based classroom. But now I've added the feature that if you click on next in this particular option, it'll go straight to the history of the data-driven classroom.
A math teacher for Dr. Gano Freshman Academy.
And also included in this particular screen is the script to what's going to be said for the history of the data-driven classroom. Okay, so let's go back to the main menu. Now, as you can see, each module has, or each lesson has the lesson explained.
In Lesson 1, you will learn how to generate star score reports in Tango.
With a little lesson introduction that opens up from the window. Also, we have the video lesson.
In this lesson number 1 of how to use data walls to motivate students.
That's lesson number 1 with a video script waiting for anyone who needs section 508. And so we'll get out of that. Let's go back to the lesson menu. Oh, in this particular screen, you can actually see the next page, which is part 3. And this is, now it's your turn. Here's your assignment for lesson 1. And so here's an introduction, which is explained to the viewer. And also activity 1,
using your laptop,
which is being spoken to you. And at the same time, you'll have the script of what's being said. So it is section 508 compliant. Let's look at lesson 3. Lesson 3 is a little bit different. In the now, it's your turn. If you look at the instructions here,
you will learn how to create a.
Here's the video lesson.
Lesson 3 of this instruction.
And then here's the next part, right? Video script, and then next part 3. Part 3 of lesson 3 has 2 activities and a final exam. Okay? So we have the explanation for the activities and also the activity itself. And then the final exam. This is also another addition that I did to my final module based on the feedback that Dr. Pan gave me, saying that I really needed, instead of just the activities, but I really needed a post-test to be able to assess my learners. And so I included that. And you'll notice it's got a click to begin the test. And then it has questions. And the passing score is an 80, and my score was a 100. And so I can end the lesson. It says end of lesson. You may now close the program. What exactly have I learned from the course project? That's part number 5 of this video. Well, I explain it in this way, and there's about 8 lessons that I got out of this, that some of them I knew, but I didn't really put them together with the project. But I'll say them and see what you guys think. It says, my lesson number 1, in writing the proposal, continue to define the problem until it is clearly explained. We have this problem, we have this overarching goal. Continue to fine tune it. And that proposal has to emulate that overarching goal, exactly what we want as an end product. Number 2, lesson 2, when forming design documents, make sure to use the Practicum professor's template and not the one from the instructional class. I made this mistake. I started looking at my instructional design class, and I had this format that was followed in a particular class, but that wasn't the same format that I needed for the Practicum class, so I had to redo it a little bit. Lesson number 3. Always align the design documents with the format of your employer, of your school, or of your field. Whatever field, employer, or school that you're working for, they're going to have a particular template or a particular design that they're going to want those design documents. Make sure that you're following those design documents to the letter. Number 4, lesson 4. Setting clear goals and creating a plan to reach them makes work easier to manage. When you have a schedule per day and what you're supposed to be covering, it helps out because you know, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and you could just knock them out of the ballpark as you come up to them. Lesson 5, PowerPoint skills are still needed and are worthwhile to possess and to polish when creating online lessons, especially using Storyline 2. If you can create a PowerPoint, you can create a Storyline 2 online learning module. And that was something that I learned in this particular project. If you can get those PowerPoint skills down, you're gonna create a really good looking online module. Lesson 6, give videos and screencasts my personal touch by acting in them or using my voice in the narration. This will keep my students engaged. Lesson number 7, this is something that's, I think, universal in a lot of disciplines and a lot of work that we do, is plan my work and then work my plan. Make sure that that plan is in place, and then once you have that plan, don't just sit on your laurels. You got to put that plan in and activate it. Number 8, lesson 8, when planning my documents, work, and scripts, make them concise and well-timed. Each one of my lessons was about 5 minutes, and that's about as much time as we have to be able to get our point across. So keep the scripts and keep the narration down to a minimum, and you have 5 minutes to make your point and make it. This has been my final presentation for my Practicum class, and thank you very much, and this has been my presentation.